It seems like I always start off my videos this way, but I guess that's part of my charm. Anyways, I wanted to get into the Total War series for a while now. I started off with Empire Total War, but I'm not a huge fan of the time period. The search continued until I stumbled upon the Humble Bundle and decided to get this game. In short, I wasn't disappointed, but there's more to this story, so let's go ahead and see why I enjoyed it. When you start off the grand campaign, you can pick from 5 factions. However, when you beat the short or long campaign on any difficulty, you unlock all the factions. The biggest strength with this game is how diverse each faction is regarding starting conditions, starting units, late units, and much more. While people recommended me to pick England because that's pretty much the easiest faction in the game, I went with the Venetians to give myself more of a challenge, but I realized that I wasn't very good first starting out in this game. There is a small minority of people that complain about the learning curve regarding these games, but honestly, I got into Total War fairly quickly, a lot quicker than I thought. I mean, of course, the first couple of turns I was overwhelmed and I didn't really know what to do, especially with all enemies surrounding me, but after a while I got my bearings together and I pretty much held it down. There are a lot of things to talk about within this game. This game is freaking huge. So let's start off with some of the more simpler concepts and let's talk about the combat. So pretty much you have a choice to go to the battle map, auto resolve, or withdraw from the battle. So when the battle comes, you can choose to wait the time of day, so it comes in a darker or lighter time depending on when you're fighting, or just start to deploy right away. And you're off to the races. Now, one thing to know about the Total War battles is they're very slow and they grind it out, but that's a good thing about the game. It makes it feel much more epic and really helps with the immersion. But seriously, every step you take feels so methodical, and it feels like two heavyweights slug it out, especially if you're England fighting French or something. Most of the battles that you will have are going to be siege battles, and these things are pretty awesome. There's a lot of strategic depth regarding these, not only how to break into your castle walls, but how to deal with the hailing firestorm of your enemy archers. Depending on how far you are in the game will depend how much technology you have. When you first start out, you're very limited. You really only have rams, siege towers, and ladders to really get you through. But later in the game, you're going to get a lot of siege weapons, especially cannons. The bombazos are very powerful in this game. This is a complete side note, but holy crap, this game looks amazing at night. I mean, just seeing all the fire cannons and the fire arrows, it looks ridiculously awesome, especially for the time period. Besides the AI being kind of stupid, especially in siege battles, the only real complaint I have is when your units attack another unit, even as they're beating them and pummeling them, they don't naturally surround the other units. So it becomes more of a painstakingly manual thing to just take your units, move them to the left, take your other units, move them to the right, to really surround the units instead of it doing automatically. While the frame rate was fairly consistent throughout, I did experience some slowdowns when fighting near trees or when a lot was going on. It slowed the game down to a crawl, but after a while it did pick up. So that was pretty much the combat. Now let's talk about the part that you will see a majority of the time playing, the campaign map. Here's where you build your army, expand your cities, use diplomacy, use espionage, and much more. At the end of each turn, you get a summary of your finances as well as some important news around the world. You will also gain missions which sometimes require you to make peace, take over a settlement, force a blockade on an enemy dock, and much more. Successfully completing these missions gives you bonuses such as gold or some of the best available units, while failing them can have some serious consequences. This helps give your campaign a sense of direction in case you get a little bit overwhelmed at times. My favorite element of this game, along with the combat, is the espionage. You only start out with spies, but later get access to assassins. Whether you are successful or fail, you get these videos to show your results. Some of these are pretty humorous, and it's a good contrast to some of the more darker and grittier elements this game portrays. One thing that I don't like is there's not that many ways to get your assassins better, only then to get them out on the field, and most of them start out pretty sucky, so you'll be lucky to get them to a higher star unless you continuously reload the game, which I did. Throughout the game, certain historical events occur that have significant changes throughout the game. This includes the Mongol invasion as well as the invention of gunpowder that really creates a greater immersion within the game. And just a real quick comment about when gunpowder is invented, it really makes the game a bit unbalanced, especially towards the late periods, because honestly, if I have gunpowder, I'm going to beat you with the cannons. It really makes the Holy Roman Empire and the Byzantine Empire kind of weak when it comes to the late game. Now let's talk about diplomacy and how it could have been improved. First, in order to do any diplomacy, you need to have a diplomatic speak to a person of the opposite faction. Sometimes this can take multiple turns depending on how far your destination is. Second, they will most likely disagree even if your offer is generous. Third, factions will attack you because of historical accuracy, sometimes even your own allies if they really don't like you. Fourth, even if you are in an alliance with someone and they are warring with your enemy, unless there is a crusade, good luck getting them to help you. I have been allied with the Sicilians in my playthrough as the English, and they never once helped me with battles. Sure, they didn't break their alliances with me, thank God, I was in war with the world at that time, but they didn't play an active role in helping me either. When you play as any faction, your family tree is going to be very small. It's important to expand upon it, especially if you want to have a lot of generals. You can get them either through birth or by adopting them if they do well on the battlefield. One really cool thing about this game is depending on the attributes of the general, their command level, their loyalty, their past actions on the field, etc., helps determine what is being said in the battle speech. While this doesn't do anything in terms of gameplay, it's just another feature that helps with the immersion factor, and I'm glad they put it in the game. So now let's talk about one of the most annoying people of the face of the earth, and that has to be the Pope. If you don't do what he says, prepare to face the world, and that's pretty much what happened to me as England. Thankfully, my army was incredibly powerful, so I was able to withstand it, and I got lucky at times. Being on a crusade has a lot of benefits. Not only will it please the pompous Pope, but it will also allow you to have zero upkeep costs for the units on the crusade. This is a very good strategy, especially if you are trying to be financially conservative. Another cool thing about Crusades is how you get to travel to different places that you never thought of before, adding a little bit to the visual flair. One thing I can't stand about the Pope is how you retaliate against the Catholic faction that has been fighting you the whole time. He acts like it's your fault for fighting them. It's not my fault that the French were idiotic enough to attack me. They should be excommunicated, not me. After a while, I learned how broken the Pope system is. Even if you are excommunicated, all you need to do is create a lot of priests. Eventually, these priests will be elected into the College of Cardinals. Once the Pope dies, your priest will dominate the college and you'll be able to vote for an English Pope. Once that happens, you'll gain full favor with the new Pope, and your sins are forgiven. So after that, you can just give him some tribute, some florins each turn, and you'll be in safe hands for the rest of the game. So that's pretty much all I want to talk about. Sure, I didn't touch upon the naval battles, but they're pretty much non-existent. They auto-resolve themselves. I didn't really go into the city building, but most of the buildings are self-explanatory. They tell you the benefits, how they increase your order to make people more content, buildings that allow certain units to be recruited, so on and so forth. So I didn't feel the need to really go in depth in that. So overall, this game is an 8.5 out of 10. There's so much this game gets right and very little it gets wrong. There's a lot of replay value with all the different nations, and while there are some that I prefer more than others that kind of suck in the late periods, Byzantine Empire and the Holy Roman Empire, overall I would see myself playing at least once with every race. And plus, there's no other game like the Total War series that can reach the level of scale and epicness this game has. But you know, I'm feeling a little bit depressed after playing this game. I mean, what am I really fighting for? I understand that I'm fighting for supremacy, but what for? Innocent lives are being thrown away, but for what reason? The church is beyond corrupt, so who can the people look up to? I need a moment. This is Pow3rh0use, signing off.